Hello everyone, and welcome back to Geeks Not Nerds Live. It's time for the second week of this year's annual multi-topic extravaganza. I'm your host, Captain Logan, and tonight we've got a fun-filled, exciting panel for you. I got a couple people that weren't here with us last week, and one special guest tonight. First of all, as always, it's the amazing Steve Baxi.
Hello everybody.
And jumping for joy, it's Jackson Rasco.
Punch.
And just fell out of the chat and can't respond. It's Brown Coat Eric. Hopefully he'll be back with us momentarily. Otherwise, that will rank as one of the greatest and briefest of all Geekvolution cameos. And finally, for the first time in a good long time, it's Mr. Goodplot. Hello, Mr. Goodplot.
Hi. My mini-series is not dead. It's just in a coma. And it's opening its eyes a little bit.
So Steve was talking about his favorite movie last week, God's Not Dead, and and you could make it a parody of that. It's like my miniseries is not dead.
Yes. I say stuff to it and it responds. It goes so it's not dead.
Somebody just wrote in the comments that Eric is the Stan Lee of Geekvolution. Oh wait, he's back. And coming back to us finally as a screenshot or a cover of John Constantine, it's Brown Coat Eric. Eric, say hello. Maybe?
Can everybody hear me?
There he is! There he is! Say hello, Eric.
Hello, Eric.
There we go. I've been trying to introduce you for the last 3.5 minutes.
Oh, no, I got cut off, like, I don't know, like 2-3 minutes ago.
Oh, I know. It was great. I was just about to introduce you, and then you just disappeared. And I introduced you anyway. So now that we've got now that the gang's all here, hi everybody. Thanks for being here. For the next hour or so, we're going to answer your questions, both pre-written and we'll answer things during the show as well. Anytime during the show, you can ask a question for us. Anything about comics, pop culture, movies, superhero stuff, and the like, science fiction. And leave those things in the regular comments there on the live stream, on the video, and Jackson Rasco will periodically pick those for us because we make Rasco work harder than the rest of us. And we've also got lots of, like I said, pre-written questions. We're going from the bottom up, so we're going to get through as many of these as humanly possible in the next few weeks. We'll be doing this for 6 or 8 weeks or so. And the next question on the list, and by the way, the link to the introduction video is in the description. So if you'd like to add a question there that you want to make sure gets answered, feel free to do that. And I can't promise anything, but we're going to answer in order until we get until we finish, and hopefully we'll get all the way to the end. So we'll answer these as lickety-split as humanly possible, and we'll let everybody on the panel answer these questions if they have things to say about them. Remember, just one question if you're asking on the comments there for the introduction video, and you can ask as many questions tonight as you want to, but don't spam the thing. Don't write like the same question a million times, or we will ignore you on purpose. Yeah. Okay. Our first question tonight comes from Aiden Walsh. This is an interesting one. If you could change anything about a superhero's costume or gadget, be it for functionality or just aesthetic preference, who would you pick, what would you change, and why? And of course, a lot of superheroes and villains, etc., characters that wear costumes have costume changes every so often. So I assume we're talking about whatever the classic suit is, or just whatever is kind of currently popular. Anybody, go ahead and jump in. Something that you don't really like that much or think could be improved upon a superhero or a villain's costume.
I don't.
I guess a superhero's is what he said, but yeah, go ahead.
I don't dislike Spider-Man's just classic Spider-Man suit. I don't dislike it. I like it a lot, but if you were to give me the opportunity to just do like a redesign, I would take the Spider-Man suit and just make all of the webbing white instead of black, just to see how that looks, because I think that would look really cool.
They're sort of doing that in the new PlayStation game.
Yeah, but that costume's weird. That costume's like over-designed, I think.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you're sort of getting to see what you're talking about. It is a bunch of white on a Spider-Man suit.
Agreed.
What does anybody else have a good idea? Steve, I'm trying to think of one.
So okay, maybe this is more of just like it used to be a thing, and we keep changing it, and I wish we'd go back to it. I'm sure this is Eric's too, and I got this from talking with Eric.
If I'm not lagging.
You are unfortunately lagging a lot, Eric, but we'll go right to you after Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, this will be credited to Eric because it's definitely a thing he would say. I hate the fact that Green Arrow, ever since like the mid-2000s, has been using a compound bow. I wish we would just continue giving him a longbow because that's just better. It just aesthetically it's better, and it makes a lot more sense with him as kind of like an archer for fun as opposed to like a serious hunter type. Like, it's really weird for a guy like Oliver Queen to go around with really fancy, complicated compound bows. I just don't get it.
It's just so that people can draw cool gadgets, Steve.
It's true. They can do that thing in Arrow where he has a massive bow that miniaturizes into the palm of his hand, and then they never use it again.
Oh my god, and you would, like, a lot, right? Like, that would come in handy. And it transforms into a writing pen. Can we have an alternate reality where we use the name that Steve just came up with for Green Arrow, where Green Arrow, instead of Green Arrow, is called Archer for Fun? That'd be great. Eric, what's yours? I don't know if we still have Eric. Okay, good plot. Do you have one?
The only one I can think of is... Well, who was that?
Eric dropped out.
The only one I can think of is Plastic Man, but I think this has already been fixed. But I know that currently Plastic Man is not in anything, right? No.
Yeah, we never use him. That's a good point.
Oh, man. Well, if he does come back, I would prefer if his legs did not look like they were bare, but with shoes at the same time. Like, you know that weird design he has where it looks like he's bare feet, but they look like shoes because they have no toes or anything? Like, I don't like that. Like, I prefer if he had, like, official pants and boots.
He had that in, what was it called? I think Generation Lost, but, like, I don't think he's appeared, like, anywhere in New 52 or after, so maybe they didn't stick with that.
Well, if he does come back, I hope they stick with that then. Because it just always weirded me out that he had these bare feet that looked like shoes.
I forget whether or not Brave and the Bold gives him shoes.
It's the same thing as in the original comic books where it's the weird feet shoe thing.
Yeah, because they like to go back to Silver and Golden Age.
Yeah, I wasn't sure off the top of my head, but you're right.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of barefoot characters. There's certainly not a whole lot of characters that have bare feet that look like shoes. But Namor is a barefoot character.
Namor is. Wannabeast is.
Is
Wow.
Silver Surfer naked, technically?
Silver Surfer? Yeah.
Is Silver Surfer naked?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, looks like shoes.
I mean, like, current Silver Surfer can silver down, so his silver kind of covers his body, and then he sort of has a body on underneath it, unless that's, or at least that's what it looks like when you look at the panels, unless it's just that he's actually transforming. So, you know, he's basically Power Ranger morphing. But old school Silver Surfer, yeah, I think that's just his body.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of comic book characters where you're not completely sure if they're naked.
That's true, and of course, superhero costumes are spray painted on in the first place. So everybody sort of looks naked. I'm having a hard time not just thinking of things where I don't like the current iteration or a recent iteration and wish we would go back. I mean, like, all the way through 52, I was complaining about armor and wish we could, at the very least, let artists draw different versions and not have to always be those armored versions. And we're starting to get away from those a little bit, so that's good. The only thing I could think of, and this is not a superhero, but this is a villain, but I always thought that people would make fun of the Spot more if he had just a white costume with a black spot in the middle and didn't have spots all over the rest of his self. Right? Like he has always been a laughingstock, and his power is awesome. And I don't think people would make fun of him so much if it was just that one hole. And yet, it makes sense because he can make holes everywhere. And I think at least some version of him, he actually takes them off of himself. So like that makes sense. Well, that doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. But anyway, okay, let's go on to another question, shall we? And hopefully Eric's able to come back and talk to us here in a little bit. Okay, so this is great, you guys. This is great. Jacob May, what would you think of a campy live-action Batman Beyond starring Adam West, and who would you cast as campy Terry McGinnis?
That sounds like fun.
Does that mean it takes place now?
It would have to, yeah, because it would be, elderly Adam West playing Bruce Wayne, and then a current younger actor playing Terry McGinnis. Who would that guy be?
I think it'd be really fun if we cast. He's my go-to for most things, but I think it'd be really fun if we cast Aaron Paul as Terry McGinnis.
You always say that.
Really intense and campy.
If we go to a late 20s, early 30s comic book character, it's always Aaron Paul if you're Steve Baggsy.
Because he's so good. I love him. I want him to be in everything, just like Michael Fassbender.
See, I'm always reminded so much of Spider-Man with Terry McGinnis that I kind of feel like it's hard not to cast a Spider-Man actor. Like I feel like the current guy playing Spider-Man could do it.
Andrew Garfield could have done it like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, that would be good too. He could kind of do it now. I mean, I feel like Terry McGinnis could easily be a character in his 30s if you just. Well, no, he should be 20-something, shouldn't he? Because you want him to be in high school or college. It's like Spider-Man. He needs to be in high school or college.
I think you could do something that's legitimately different and interesting after you have Terry grow up and be like working. Like how does he balance a literal work life with his girlfriend and being Batman? But yeah, it's more interesting to see him in school, I think.
Steve, what do you think about live-action Batman Beyond in the first place? Like, do you think this is a thing that will ever finally happen? Because we talked about this before, but people seem obsessed with this idea that like someday it must happen.
Years. I mean, ever since Batman Beyond was a thing that was released to the masses, everyone's wanted a Batman Beyond movie. Paul Dini was writing a Batman Beyond movie, and then that never happened. There was lots of interesting casting choices for that through the line. I know Robbie Amell said that he wants to play a live-action Terry McGinnis in a movie. I think
he'd be good. No, he'd be good. Yeah, that might be the definitive response. But see, I like that actor, and I haven't liked how shafted he's been.
I agree. I mean, I think he's fun. I feel like he's got more diverse acting range than Stephen Amell.
But I think some of that is just because of what Stephen Amell has been given to do.
I don't know. I mean, seeing him in other things, I feel like he's just kind of fit to play one personality.
Well, but see, I don't think that would be the case if he was allowed to. If he had been allowed to demonstrate more range earlier on. I mean, like, I guess the first couple seasons he got better things to do, but I still kind of feel like Arrow has messed him up a little bit as an actor.
Probably. He seems really reactionary about season 5.
Maybe that's harsh, but it just kind of feels like, if that's your first major role and you're there for 4 years going on 5, and you come in and you kind of, I hate to say this, but you kind of phone it in because you're not given a lot of, substance and real good material, that's going to affect you as an actor, right? Like, I felt like the same thing happened to Tom Welling.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see what season 5 is like because he said he's protecting the character now, whatever the hell that means.
Whatever that means, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Robbie Amell instantly got stuff to do with his character.
Yeah, I mean,
Just-
they ruined Firestorm later, but like his
Yeah.
version with Doc Stein was great. As far as live action,
that was great.
as far as live action Batman Beyond goes, though, I don't necessarily care if it happens. I feel like Batman Beyond was a show that had a really good idea for like a first season, and then just stopped being Batman Beyond and just
Absolutely.
became generic Batman in the future. If you make a Batman Beyond movie, I think you have to stop being afraid of how far they wanted to go with that first season. It should be really dark. It should be really terrifying. It should be really political in places. It should be something that's distinctly different from Batman, because that's what makes that first episode so genius.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I said this when I did my top 10 on it, but like part of the problem too is just the format shift. Like that show's popularity is based almost exclusively, I think. There's some there's some new characters that excite people, but like just premise and that initial setup, right? Like that is a continual, ongoing story that by second and third season just becomes a bunch of throwaway one and dones for the most part.
90% of that show's brilliance was that first season, and like everything else is just sporadic episodes. Like the moment they wrote Powers out of it, it stopped being interesting.
That's just what I was gonna say. Yeah.
You want to make it a show that like really capitalize on that. I mean, I would want it to be a TV show again to do that, but if you're gonna make it a movie, it's got to be something that's like, it's got to be something that's distinctly different from just making it a Batman movie. It's got to be something that's like, it's taking a very different stand on who Batman is, because Terry McGinnis is not Bruce Wayne, and he can't just be generic in the future Batman beating up villains. It's got to be something with a very intricate, grander purpose in a way Batman fiction usually isn't.
Well, and there's an idea like that is a thing that would be ripe for television and for another Netflix show or something, where if you didn't want a Bruce Wayne centric show that was Batman because you've got a movie version, Beyond seems like the next logical step. Like, if and when Gotham finally gets canceled or ends, like that'd be the thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially with how dark they want to take stuff on Fox. I mean, I feel like they can get away with Batman Beyond.
Or do it at the same time as Gotham, but then everyone will stop watching Gotham. Like,
do it as a spin-off of Gotham, where since all of the villains were so old, Bruce Wayne grows up to become Batman Beyond.
What I tell you what I like about that. Well, okay, not that. Just go way far in the future and have an older Batman and an older Bruce Wayne and just skip real Batman and just do. Because it would be great to have a Batman Beyond thing, whether it was a movie or a TV show or something, that was set in another future of a world that seemed like it was kind of outside of time. I don't really want a Batman Beyond that extrapolates too much from a world that looks like our present day world. Like, I don't know that I would want one set in the current DC continuity, in the DC movie continuity, because it's got too many references to things that are happening now. I think it'd be way better for it to be, like the cartoon show was, a world that was outside of time, and then that future, because you can do a lot more futuristic stuff and get away with it, which is much harder to do with science fiction presently.
The more you say that, the more I just kind of want, like, make a Batman Beyond TV show that's ambiguous about its continuity, and Bruce Wayne's already dead, and we don't repeat that first episode, because that first episode is genius.
Yeah,
just like let it be something. Let it be Terry has to live with the impact of who Bruce was without Bruce anymore.
I just think it's fascinating how much longevity that concept has had, and that we've had, Batman Beyond comics for now the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
that's wild. It's just wild. Okay, let's move on to another question, and we'll move a little bit quicker. Somebody said Batman Beyond. Me and Steve got excited. Here's another thing that someone's going to say, and Steve's going to get excited. Jugulator95, Cap and Steve, what are your favorite episodes of both Buffy and Angel? And also, who are your favorite Buffy and Angel characters? And if you guys are fans of those shows, you can mention this. You can mention yours as well. This is a thing that I feel like Steve and I have both probably said on camera before, so we can do this kind of quickly. And I have not watched those shows recently, so I am 8 shades of rusty. But Steve, why don't you start us off? and then the other guys can jump in if they know these shows. Go ahead.
Okay, so Angel, I think that's a show that Angel and Buffy are both shows I rewatch like every year. So with Angel, it's depends on like what I'm in the mood for. But for the most part, I think my favorite episode of Angel ever is going to be Not Fade Away, which is the finale. I think the last episode of Angel is the most perfect last episode to anything ever. I think it's genius. I love everything about it. So that's even an episode I have to go back and watch in isolation a lot of the times. With Buffy, I think has an objective best episode, which is the body, but that's a really hard episode to watch because it's so sad. So outside of the body, I think my favorite episode for that show is season 2, Passion, which is the episode where Angel kills Miss Calendar.
Oh yeah. Yep, that's a good call. Do either of you guys know those shows?
I've only seen a couple of episodes.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple episodes of Angel, and I've maybe seen like an episode of Buffy.
So I'll choose from that.
Oh, go ahead.
My favorite character is the Slayer who turned into a ventriloquist dummy. Because that's one of the only few episodes I've seen, so I'm choosing from that. You would think it would be Xander Harris, but I didn't see that era, so...
I think you really like. There's a Xander-centric episode in season. What was it? 4? Not 4. No, it's season 3. It's in season 3. It's called the Zeppo, which is just Xander going around dealing with zombies while everyone else is dealing with the end of the world, and it's hysterical.
Well, if it's pre-eye patch, then I don't care.
Yeah, it's pre-eye patch.
Oh, that's what he meant by that era. I was like, Xander's there the whole time. Oh. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so Steve and I have been threatening forever to do a regular series on Buffy and Angel, and we need to finally get around to doing that, Steve, because I miss those shows, and I miss having an excuse to sit around and watch them. So Angel is really tough for me, and that's my favorite of the two shows and what I started with. And I always related a lot to that character, just like Steve does.
I love Angel.
Steve, I'm gonna go with, and this fluctuates again a lot, but I'm gonna go with the Faith 2-parter from the first season.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. 5x5 in Sanctuary.
Yeah, thanks. See, Steve speaks episode title of Buffy and Angel like I speak episode title of Star Trek, and I used to speak not fluent episode title for that series, but it's just been too long, and so I don't even know the grammar and syntax anymore, Steve. Buffy is it's just really hard for me not to say the entire third season.
Yeah,
but
it's great.
But it's something in there. It might be the episode where Faith finally turns on Buffy and runs off. I'm not sure. Maybe the finale of that season. I also like the finale of season 4 a lot.
Restless, the dream episode, or the one before that?
Yeah. No, that one. Mostly because I liked that they did one that was that creative and wasn't a cliffhanger.
Yeah, Restless is weird because it's one of the only cases in Joss Whedon's history where he's actively foreshadowing multiple seasons intentionally.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I really like that one. Another one for Buffy that I forgot to mention is season 3. It's Amends, the episode where Angel's being told by the first evil to kill himself. That episode.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and the one, this isn't the same episode, I don't think. It's been forever, and I feel weird because I used to know these shows way better than I do, but it's been probably 5 years since I've watched them. The episode where Angel finally comes back from hell.
Yeah, that's one of the early episodes of season 3. I think that's either Beauty and the Beast or Homecoming, because I know the first 3 episodes of season 3 are like a movie, and I don't think it's in those.
Yeah. The one with the prom and the umbrella is really good too.
Yeah. That one's Homecoming.
Okay. Oh, was that Homecoming? Oh, I thought that was a prom thing. No, that was Homecoming. Cause
it was Homecoming because Buffy and Cordelia both want to be like Homecoming Queen, and the whole thing is like Buffy wants something to look forward to, and then that really hilarious Mr. Fix-It vampire goes around and like hires people to kill them, and it's great.
Wait, was Spider-Man there?
No, sadly, no. There are Spider-Man references.
There are lots of there's Angel's got a really good Daredevil reference.
Daredevil 181, guns threatening a guy in season 3?
Three?
No,
Three?
yeah. No, it's 4. It's 4 because it's the season where Fred finds out her professor is the person that sent her to Korthoff.
Oh, that's what it was.
Cat frozen?
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I was just saying that's around where their relationship goes south and I stop caring.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I'm getting self-conscious about the fact that I can't recall things from those shows suddenly, and those are some of my favorite shows. So let's go and move on. Rasco, do you have a live comment for us?
Yes, I do.
Cool!
From Michael McAllister. Question. What are your thoughts on fanboying and hating DC or Marvel specifically? It seems like you are wrong for liking or disliking either company. Is this productive?
Big hot button issue lately in the geeky communities, and I don't think it's warranted, and that it really should be. Let's start with Rasco. What do you think, Rasco?
It's one of those things where everybody, I guess, on the internet likes to categorize themselves. So we are obsessed with labeling what we are to the T. And so, you gotta be Marvel or DC, but no, you don't. That's just the most random decision to have to make, to choose between the two of them. I think that it's fair for a lot of people that happen to like DC, and that like those characters more, to see some of the negative response to those films. It must be kind of sad, but I mean, if I don't think people are hating on either side for good reasons. If they're just talking about this Marvel DC rivalry, I don't think there's really a good reason for that to even exist, other than they're competing, I guess, for the superhero geekdom community to like their movies and their comics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
There's 2 Captain Logans.
Captain Clogan.
That was Captain Clogan.
Well, every time another Captain Logan comes up, another Captain Logan clone comes up, and I've just got to shoot him in the head real quick before anybody notices.
Foreshadowing.
It's okay. He's my clone. It's okay. It's not murder. He's my clone. Because that's how that works. Anyway, who was talking about fanboyism?
Rasco was.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I didn't really have anything else to say other than there's no real reason to have to choose between the two, and just because DC has been getting kind of bad reviews with their films does not mean that there's necessarily a agenda against them. That's ridiculous. And the more we talk about Marvel versus DC, the more people are just going to get hostile towards the one that they prefer less.
Yeah. I'll weigh in a second. Either you guys. Who wants to jump in? Yeah, go ahead. Good plan.
I think there's 2 positives of this rivalry. The first positive is that it lets the general public know that DC and Marvel are not the same thing. It makes that more apparent. Because back when the Avengers movie had its first trailer, everyone was asking, hey, Green Lantern just had a movie, where is he? Where's Batman? Where's Superman? So now that's over with, and I think that's because of this rivalry. And the second positive of this is that it distracts people from arguing over who they should vote for president. So if you had these 2 arguments, I think the DC Marvel one is the better one to have at the moment.
I think part of the problem with this whole Marvel versus DC thing is that, okay, we talked a little bit about this in the Suicide Squad spoiler cast, but with how hard line some people are in defending certain film studios like Marvel or DC. I think you're creating a culture where critics, professional critics like who write for newspapers and stuff, aren't feeling safe about about expressing views for superhero movies, and so they're going in with biases that wouldn't exist if there wasn't such a massive war and they weren't getting attacks for it. Like, ever since Dark Knight Rises got like mixed reviews from some people, and people were sending death threats to those reviewers, I think there has been this continued culture of critics that are uneasy about DC from the onset because people are being really defensive about it, and then there's this thing of, like, on the Marvel side, because Marvel films tend to get better reviews, they don't have that, and they get lots of praise, and they get quoted all over the place, so like they're a little bit more lenient on the Disney side. It's not a bad thing, it's just a matter of, like, this is what you do to people when you start infecting fandom as opposed to perpetuating discussion. So, like, it's very difficult to go into any of these comic book films now without worrying about where to express your view. And I feel like that's a dangerous mentality when you're making art, because art's all about communication with more than one person. It's implying a relationship with another person who could understand what you're saying on principle. And so with this whole fanboyism thing, I think it's important just to define, if I'm going to call someone a fanboy, I'm calling them a fanboy because they will like something and make excuses for it simply on the principle of they want to like it. And so with those people, when you're trying to argue with those people, you get to this point where, like, it's not healthy disagreement anymore, it's not discussion anymore, it's simply defending your right to have an opinion about something that isn't in line with the brand you support. And I think that's just ridiculous, because if you look at comic history, like, if you love Tom King Batman, thank Marvel, because his Vision series took off, because Omega Man was the worst selling book of DC before he got put on Batman. And then there are Marvel writers and DC writers that are best friends with each other, that bounce ideas off of each other all the time. Like, Dennis O'Neil Batman is part of the reason we have Frank Miller Daredevil. So, like, drawing lines in the sand between these two companies, I think, is a very artificial thing to do. And if you like one over the other, that's fine. But the fanboyism of defending the brand, I think, misses the point of why we like comics in the first place, and why we like comic book film discussion in the first place.
Yeah, wow. Steve said a dozen things that I want to that I would love to jump onto. First of all, Steve, I think that was a wonderful response, by the way. I think that the opposite of something that you said is really true too, and worth bringing up, which is it is just as problematic, of course, to claim that something is bad just because it's not what you want, than to claim that something is great just because it's not what you want. So the inverse of what you were talking about with the DC movies has been true with the Marvel movies for a long time. Keep in mind that we were comparing really hard, because it is somewhat natural to do this, but we were comparing Marvel and DC movies before DC had their own shared universe. And that's a thing that's easy to forget and kind of lose. But the Nolan Batman films have a lot to do with the reason that this rivalry started in the first place. People were looking at the Marvel movies and saying, "I want deep, super serious, brilliant, ultra layered superhero movies, because that's what I feel like I got with the Nolan Batman movies, and the Marvel movies are just throwaway popcorn fun." And I feel like that's an oversimplification. I think that's an argument that you can have, and I understand to a degree why people felt that way. I also think that this is just my opinion, I think there were people kind of ignoring certain things that were in those movies because they didn't like the tone. So if the movie, and I really feel like some people were doing this and are still doing this, if you have a movie that has a light-hearted tone versus a movie that is telling you that it's dark and important and real, and it's real, and it's like real life, there are some people that take that at face value and say, this movie is telling me that it's important and that it matters, and how deep it is, and so it is that, and I don't like that. I think that's a giant oversimplification, but I think that's been a lot of the problem and a lot of why we've had that rivalry. I think that if there was no popular Batman franchise, I also don't think that this would have happened. I don't think you can have Iron Man necessarily without Batman Begins. I don't know, but I'm not sure that the Marvel movies would have turned out the way they did if we hadn't, had the Nolan success and then Dark Knight. Iron Man's happened that same time, but I think Dark Knight and Iron Man simultaneously helped to spur this on for both companies. But I just think that if you hadn't had those and somehow rather the Marvel juggernaut had gotten rolling the way it did, the landscape would look different, and this rivalry might not be as heated as it is. For me, it is, as I said, simply a matter of gross simplification. It's a matter of people not using critical thinking skills. Just because someone doesn't like the direction that the DC extended universe has gone so far and what those movies are, it doesn't make them anti-DC. It doesn't make them pro-Marvel over DC, even if they dislike all three of those movies. And I just think that's a really important thing to mention. And it's also important to say that you don't, obviously, as Rasko was saying, have to pick and choose between them, even if you think that one of those properties is doing better than the other. Finally, I want to piggyback off one more thing Steve said when he was talking about how you've got how with critics. I love that you made this point, Steve, that critics have a tendency to look harder at the studio that has made movies before that they don't like, and especially if they feel like they've wasted their time. And then with Marvel, it's easier to give the even the more mediocre movies more of a pass because of the track record. Part of the reason that is, of course, is because the Marvel movies are, by and large, all continuing to tell a story, even as they are by themselves singular films. So it's very difficult to look at even some of the more lackluster and lukewarm entries as just a mediocre chapter in a larger ongoing tale as opposed to a really crappy movie, because the DC movies so far have all been trying to very much stand on their own. I mean, they are building on each other, but and now they're talking really hard about how each of them is supposed to be very different. And so when you look at the Marvel movies, even though those are all in a lot of different genres, and they're telling different stories and things, they have been building on each other a lot, and there is this kind of overarching kind of tone to those movies. It is really easy to be, at the very least, less irritated with the ones that aren't working out so far, or so well, because the overall there's consumer confidence, and you've got that good track record. But I have to mention, just for my own part, that and we are not alone. I mean, a lot of people get criticized for this, but I just think it's really funny that when we get this, just like everybody else does, and gets criticized for being Marvel fanboys and really hating DC. I loved Man of Steel when it first came out, and as I continued to watch it more and more, it fell apart for me. It wasn't because I listened to this greater whole that told me I was not allowed to like that movie. I also don't like Iron Man 2 very much. I think Ant-Man is just okay. I mean, I have nuanced opinions about these things, and I think a lot of us do. And of course, there are those people that don't, but they're not indicative of everybody. So yeah, it's a silly argument. And I'd love if people started putting their critical thinking hats on and looked at these things on more of a case-by-case basis and said, is this movie good? Do I like it? Which are sometimes separate things. And also, and doing that apart from feeling the need to support a thing, regardless.
Yeah, it's really weird because people treat Marvel and DC like sports teams. And they're just they're to support their team regardless of the quality of their films. In certain, not everybody's like that, but there are people that are just kind of on both sides, that will refuse to be critical of their own films simply because of this fan love for either Marvel or DC.
I think it's also that is so tricky. Talking about people and how they look at their own movies, because I think it is maybe too much to ask for someone to be. I mean, I want everybody to always be honest and truthful, but to ask filmmakers and actors to come right out after a movie has just been released and say, yeah, that didn't work, it wasn't very good, that affects their careers. So, I mean, like, if it were me, I would kind of just maybe lay low and not say a lot yet, but I don't know, that's sticky. And that becomes stickier because we live in an era where everybody is connected, and actors and directors and writers, et cetera, are all discussing things in, well, more often in general and in more of a public forum.
Yeah, I don't know, Josh Trank has kind of like sent a message to the world: never talk bad about the studio after your movie bombs.
Right.
He's probably living in a cardboard box right now, isn't he?
Let's hope not.
I want to thank whoever asked that question. Do you remember who that was?
Oh, I
Rascal?
deleted the comment. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
It was so long ago.
It was Michael McAllister. That's
No,
who
I know, and we spent some time on this, but that could have very much been its own video. Thanks a lot for that question. I'm glad that came up and we brought it. Did anybody else want a final word before we moved on? Because I know I just gave you a dissertation.
No, we're good.
All right, thanks, Good Plot. On Good Plot's recommendation, we continue. And this next comment is related to the live comment. Look, accidental continuity for the win. Tamir Mugo, what do you guys think of Deborah Snyder's recent comments about the DCEU Superman not being dark, but relatable?
I feel like a lot of this apologism for Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman is very quickly falling apart under its own weight, because you have, right before this, arguments being made that, like, look, we're not supposed to relate to Batman and Superman on these terms. We're supposed to see them as beings of great power, and so their power detaches them from us, and so they must come to us by the end of their journey. Well, is it that, or are they relatable? You got to be, if you're the studio advertising these arcs to me, you got to be consistent about how you pitch them, because those are two very different things. And I don't think the relatable thing is even if I'm charitable and I give you all the themes Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel present to me, those themes don't say relatable. Those themes say, how does God interact with man?
Yeah, and it feels very much like the piece itself is setting up characters that are meant to be relatable later. I mean, like that comment, and this is out of context because I don't know where that came from, and I did not read that interview. But just based on that, again, I'm admitting this is out of context, but just that idea seems counter to what that movie's about, and that's saying nothing about whether or not that movie should be about what it's about. But like taking out issues I have with that film. You have an alcoholic Bruce Wayne who's murdering people and or branding them depending on which scene you're watching, and he very obviously, even though I think it's done with a light switch moment, is meant to have learned something and been inspired by Superman by the end to change what he is. So now she's talking directly about Superman, but like I don't think even he is supposed to exactly be relatable. I think he's kind of on his way there.
I mean, like, because Man of Steel's got all the religious iconography. Batman vs. Superman's got a lot of that. There are many moments in Batman vs. Superman where you got like the hand symbolism of people coming down and wanting to touch Superman, like a hand to God kind of thing. He's not. Even I hate that movie, but even if I'm giving it as many passes as I can, it's not a relatable arc. It's an inspirational arc. Batman's the character we're supposed to relate to, so that to see Superman as more than godly and something more human.
But they're also both extremes.
Just misses the point of the movie, I think.
Well, and they're also both extremes that have to come to a middle.
Yeah, and that middle, I guess, maybe fleshing out later could be something like Wonder Woman, but like it's not a relatable thing. I don't know where you'd get that unless you're trying to be defensive about it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that explaining what a movie is after the fact is not really the way to go, I don't think, for a studio. You gauge whether you gauge what was intended versus what people got out of it, and either most people missed the boat and don't understand the movie, and then you have movies that have that are just ahead of their time. There's a lot of different things that can happen where it's like, okay, people didn't get this movie because it didn't track with the sensibilities that people have right now. This is not that movie. That movie has so many issues of lack of communication and where it's confusing. I'm not sure what it's getting at with things, and it just, I think it speaks volumes that we've got people involved in that process that after the fact are trying to tell us what we're supposed to take from it. That's not to say that you can't, outside of producers and things, that's not to say that you shouldn't, if you think that a person doesn't get a movie or it doesn't get a story, say, I think you missed this key component, and then sometimes there's a light switch moment. You go, okay, now it all comes together. I don't think anybody's going to read what Deborah Snyder said, go back and look at that movie and go, oh, you're right. He's not dark. He's relatable. Like, I've always said this. You can have a dark Superman movie, but Superman can't himself be the thing that is dark unless you were to tell a story where it was this proto-Superman who becomes Superman, who starts in a darker place and sees the light and becomes the example. And I kind of think that's sort of what's supposed to be going on there. You shouldn't backtrack it and pretend like it's something other than what it was, and that tells me that either they weren't really sure what they were doing in the first place, and they just put threw a lot of different things in that movie so that you could point to no, see this one scene in isolation. This is what we were getting at. Or if it's a matter of, oh crap, people didn't like what we were doing, or we didn't communicate well enough. I think it would be much smarter of them, the producers and people involved with that movie, to simply say, okay, that's we didn't communicate well. Like, whatever it was they were trying to do, it's a percentage thing. It's not a percentage of people who liked what you did versus did not like it. It's if you're claiming people didn't get it, and it's a giant percentage, it's the vast majority of people who did not understand your movie, maybe you didn't communicate it right. I mean, that's like writing workshop 101 stuff. If one person in a writing workshop says, I don't get this scene, and everybody else explains what's on the page to you the way you saw it in your head without you saying anything, you can disregard that guy's comment. But if 90% of the people go, I don't understand the scene, it doesn't need to be there, and you thought it was the most important scene in the short story, might be time to go back and rework that scene.
Yeah, agreed.
Is Deborah Zack Snyder's wife or mother?
Wife.
I wish it was his mother, because then it would be like the parent at a high school talent show that's binging their son. Like, how dare you give my son a bad score? My son is more talented than all the other students.
If it was his mother, Zack Snyder could come out and be like, no, see, I was relating in this fiction, this real-life thing that happened to me where I was having this fight with this guy, and then he and I both realized that our mother's name were Deborah, and then...
That's what I wish would happen.
Then we came together, and I realized that I accidentally left my kryptonite spear in a... Oh. Okay, let's do a few more questions here. Ryan Thompson, knowing how dark and violent a character the Punisher is, do you guys think his upcoming Netflix series will really push the boundaries of violence and gore, or do you think that the folks upstairs will get scared and push for a softer rating?
Okay.
I don't know. Can you get that much darker than? And I know that I said that Jessica Jones is ultimately in my head, at least psychologically, a harder show to watch than Daredevil season 1, but. Can we get any rougher in a Punisher show than somebody getting their... he knows what I'm going to say. Than somebody getting their head smashed in a car door over and over again? No! No, we can't! I don't think we have to worry about the boundaries of violence. Sorry, go ahead, Rasco.
There's a scene in I think it's episode 4 of Daredevil season 2, where the Punisher has his foot drilled with an electric drill. They drill into his foot, and then he pulls a blade out of his arm. He pulls out a little blade that he's sewn into his wrist. That's really and it shows it all. I don't understand. How do you get I'm pretty sure they've let us know at this point. Hey, look, we're not really censoring anything. I don't understand how that would be, like. I don't know. I think it's going to be just
The
as dark
only
as
thing Netflix has been known to censor that they couldn't get away with Jessica Jones is that they couldn't drop F-bombs.
Mm.
That's it.
And I don't know why that is.
Didn't the Punisher drop an F-bomb in the season 2 of Daredevil?
I don't think
I
he
think
did.
I heard that.
I know the showrunners come out and said for Jessica Jones they wanted to give her an F-bomb and they couldn't, but I didn't pay attention with season 2 of Daredevil.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. Good
I
plot.
thought I heard it. Maybe he was about to say it, but then didn't. Like, he was like, "Ah."
Maybe. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch it again. But, like, because Jessica Jones in the comics, one of her defining characteristics is, like, her cursing all the time. Like, there's really interesting parallels between superhero imagery of, like, these good, well-natured, salt-of-the-earth people and her, like, cursing up a storm. And, like, the F-bomb is an important tool in that series, and the fact that it wasn't there in the show was kind of glaring and was intentionally left out because Netflix wouldn't let them. So it'd be weird to give it to Punisher, but not to Jessica Jones.
Yeah, and I mean, in that show's defense, in the context of the way everyone else is talking, she has the most potty mouth of them, so it works.
Yeah, it still works in that kind of.
There's
and
kind
also
of an internal logic where you have to just pretend like there is no F word in that world. I mean, like, you know, we've seen a lot of other things that do this, where, you know, for that world, what she says is about as rough and awful as it gets. As soon as there's an F-bomb in one of the movies, all bets are off. You know, as soon as they go X-Men, then that's going to look a lot more glaring, especially if you know the source material. So I hope they don't suddenly start doing that in Punisher. But getting back to the question, I don't know if I'm hoping the priority isn't pushing the boundaries of violence. Like, I don't know that should be the priority for that show. I think we've already kind of set the stage of how you know, rough and gritty that part of the Marvel universe is, and it doesn't have to think about how gross and, you know, hard to watch do we make this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know what more you could do, honestly. Like the only
that's where I'm at.
I've been disturbed by the only thing I've been disturbed by on any artistic level for long periods of time in like past 5 years has been Jessica Jones. I don't know how you top that, really.
You know, there's a...
Sorry, go ahead, good plot.
In the comic books, there's a villain of the Punisher who is a lady with no arms or legs. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, they showed her origin story in all its detail. Just give one scene per appendage.
Cinematic universe that builds up. There's 4 films. Each film she loses a different limb.
Yes. You know, good plot makes a really good point there. Maybe somewhat offhandedly and facetiously, that this, I wouldn't worry about censorship. If you can get any rougher than what we've seen so far on Netflix, this will be the show that does it. And really the only place to go now is Punisher Max, right? Is like heads being like lopped off more often than the one time we saw it in Daredevil, and blood spurting from, you know, various orifices. That's like I could kind of see them doing that.
It's a fine line, right? Like, how do you walk between Daredevil season 1, Jessica Jones, and Punisher Warzone, in trying to make the violence both poignant, over the top, and impactful?
I love how you said both and then you gave 3 things. But yes, I agree. I agree with you, Steve. That's a tough line to walk.
Especially with Punisher, because I mean, the best Punisher runs that I've read, like, as dark as they can be, the violence is there to be funny. And I don't see Netflix doing that. I don't see Netflix like just having Punisher jump on a dinner table and lob off a guy's head with a knife and then like proceed to shoot everyone in a circle by hanging off the chandelier. Like, that doesn't seem like their universe.
I mean, I have seen over-the-top violence in Punisher things that didn't feel that kind of gratuitous, where it was like really over the top, but it wasn't gratuitous. I don't think Jason Aaron's Punisher Max is funny with its violence, except for maybe in kind of ironic but not laugh out loud kinds of ways, where you're like, okay, that was a clever kill, but good God, I am mortified.
Yeah.
I would expect. I think that show is going to take its cues hard from Ennis. Like,
Yeah, Ennis will be their Bible the same way Frank Miller and Bendis are the Bible for Jessica Jones and Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it looks like all of, not counting this last one, but it seems like all the really heavy stuff is in a row today. Let's get another live question. Let's do 2 live questions in a row, Rasco, because we've talked so long about some of these, and I just have got to stop using the term lickety-split and then talk about things for 15 straight minutes. Go ahead, Rasco. Give me 2 in a row, will you?
This is from Donnie St. Pierre. Panel, could you quickly list the Batman films from favorite to least favorite?
Oh, I thought you just meant chronologically. Here's a trivia question.
Do you
Please
know what
list
Batman films exist?
I think that's, I don't know. How long is this going to take? Like, all 4 of us each doing all the
You just
Batman
ask
movies.
for a quick question, and then you give us this huge behemoth.
We can try to do them quickly. I'm sure Steve can do this off the top of his head.
Are we talking like live action, theatrical releases, animated?
I don't want to throw all the rest of that in there. I think we can do live action, serious Batman movies. So discounting Adam West.
And
Okay, discounting Adam West and discounting Mask of the Phantasm?
what about BVS?
Yeah.
Let's just how about, what about
Let's
just
just not do this. I'm sorry, dude. We don't want to do your question.
Next question.
We just can't do it. I'm sorry. We don't want to. No, I don't know. I don't know how to rank them if you throw BVS in there. I almost don't want to participate.
Cut out BVS. We can't. It's too much of an enigma. We can't include it.
Okay, no BBS, no Mask of the Phantasm, no 66, no animated releases.
And also, this is not a definitive, for me, this is not a definitive, whatever mine ends up being is not going to be a definitive ranking order, because I have considered doing some ranking orders of things on Rewind, and I don't want people to go back to this video and be, you contradicted yourself. Like, mine could change, okay? But let's start with Good Plot. Let's put Good Plot on the spot and make him do this. Do it. Go, now. Do
Okay,
it. Go. I'm
uh,
sorry, Rasco, did you say from best to worst or worst to greatest?
From favorite to least favorite.
Okay.
favorite to least favorite. Okay. Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Batman '89, Dark Knight Rises, Batman with Jim Carrey in it, Batman with Penguin in it, and the funny 1998 one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Fair list.
I love how you went down that list as if you thought there was a $50,000 prize at stake.
You
What
have
if
5
he's
minutes to
lickety
list
split,
these
so-
Batman films. Like he had like a timer.
So there was music like scary, ominous music in the background with a ticking clock. Rasco, what's your ranked list?
Okay, so it would start up. My favorite would be Batman Begins, then The Dark Knight, then '89, then Rises, then we'll go. I honestly like Batman and Robin, like as an entity that exists. I love it, so I'm gonna rank it. Then that one's next, and then Returns and Forever.
You like Batman and Robin more than Forever?
It's
Where's
just
my eject button? Where's
it's
the
a terrible
button
movie. I'm not
where
denying.
eject
But I love
Jackson
it.
Rasco?
This is a
Yep.
question of favorite to least favorite. I love
I know,
Batman
but
and Robin.
how's that? Yeah, but even if you like it, how do you like it more than Forever? I can't get my head around that. I mean, you're welcome to have any opinion you want to. You're wrong.
Batman Forever, like, it's a better movie. Like, undeniably, it's a better movie. I'm just saying, if you ask me which one do I want to watch, I'm gonna watch Batman and Robin.
That's fine. Rascal, we can still be friends, but I'm gonna have like a twitchy, suspicious eye when I'm hanging around you, I think. And, I'm just kidding. Steve.
So favorite to least favorite, Dark Knight, Begins, Rises, Batman 89, Batman 89 Rises, Batman 89 Begins, 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 Batman 89 Forever, 89, and Robin, and Returns. I think Batman Returns, not counting BVS, is the worst Batman movie.
I can't be alone right now in wishing that we had forced Just Steve to also put BVS in that ranking.
I mean, it's going to be like I will say, like, the best comic book film ever made to me is Age of Ultron. The worst comic book film ever made to me is Batman vs Superman. So it's always going to be down there.
You know, but it would just be so entertaining to see you put that movie after Batman and Robin. So entertaining.
Yep. I like
Okay.
Batman and Robin more than both Returns and BVS, and I actually would watch Batman and Robin again above those two.
Again, this could change. I don't know. I'm just saying things. I'm just a dog chasing cars right now. Batman Begins, Dark Knight. I guess next it's 89, and then everything else. No, and then it's gonna be Batman Forever. Watch people throw things at my face at this point. And then it's. See, I'm afraid I'm gonna like miss something. And then it's Rises, and then it's Returns, and then it's Batman and Robin. And I think we all four had different combinations.
I think we did.
At first, I thought I was gonna say what Rasko said until he did the unthinkable, and then
I knew there would be controversy when I said that. I knew.
I'm just messing with you, Rasko.
You know, when I was young and naive, I watched Batman Begins, and then I watched Batman and Robin, and thought that was way better than Batman Begins. That shows you how dumb of a kid I was.
You were like, that's not what Bane sounds like, Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Rasko, give us one more live question before we go back to the commented questions and the pre-written questions, and try to give us something that's not ranking things this time.
Let's rank all the MCU films.
They all tie. Okay. This is from Bruce, and he's got a very difficult to pronounce last name, so I'm not even going to try. Bruce asks us, what story and or character originally got you into comics?
This is one I feel like I've answered every year we've done the multi-topic extravaganza, so I want to hear Good Plot's response to that, because we'll get to learn a little bit about Good Plot.
What was the question again? Sorry.
What story and or character originally got you into comics?
Howard the Duck.
Is that true?
Yes.
You are one of those people that I can never tell when you're joking, by the way.
I'm serious. Howard the Duck. It's like.
No, that's awesome. No, that's great. I never trust you when you say things.
Yeah. Like Howard the Duck was like the first Marvel character that I made fan fiction out of, so he has a place in my heart. Because I was like, hey, no one's using this character because they hate him because of George Lucas, so I'll use him. And then
I want to read that.
Oh, I didn't write it. I just came up with it in my head. I didn't know how to.
That's not fan fiction. That's headcanon. Those are different things. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he was a lot more anatomically correct in my head. He was like an actual duck with a little business suit.
Oh, you mean anatomically correct for the animal? Okay.
Yes. So someday, if I get into comics, you'll get to see an actual duck as Howard the Duck. And so, so after the Guardians of the Galaxy Stinger, after the Stinger scene from that film, I got really interested in him again because it sparked my interest in him. And then all of a sudden, right after that, came the announcement of his new solo series again, like the return of Howard the Duck solo comics,
which is really good, by the way.
Yeah, so I started getting those in trades, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to get that in trades, then I should get the other Howard the Duck comic books, the older trades that are out. So, and now it's come to the point where I'm kind of trying to start a collection of all the superhero animals.
So you gotta go for all that Spider Ham and what the and all that.
that's going to be difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, that's doable. Because the nice thing is that stuff is older, but it's not worth anything. I mean, that's what's nice about What If. Is like I have an entire collection of What If, and I've had people be like, "Oh, that's amazing." I'm like, "No, it's not. They're like $1 a piece. Like they're not worth anything." That's something Howard the Ducks are. But that Spider Ham and all that stuff, that's easy to get your hands on. And Howard the Duck, like as a character, if you wanted to collect everything, he'd be one of the more reasonable ones.
Yeah. Like and also I really want to get those early solo Rocket Raccoon stuff. Like back when he had like a walrus as his best friend and an otter as his love interest. Like,
I have that miniseries from the late '70s, or is it? I forget.
Yeah, no, other stuff like that too, like the Zoo Crew. Like I'm interested in that. Zoo Crew, Pet Avengers.
Pet Avengers, yeah.
Maybe
Pet Avengers is great. I've got that Galactus arc. It's really good.
The next movie they should do for Marvel is a crossover between Rocket Raccoon, Howard the Duck, and Hit Monkey.
Hit Monkey, yes.
Yes, those three on a wacky adventure.
Rasco, how did you get into all this madness?
So when I was really, really little, there were two things that really kind of like cemented my love for like superheroes and comics, and that was Death of Superman, which because I still remember like the time when my uncle explained to me that at one point Superman had been killed by Doomsday, and I was like, oh my god, well, who's Doomsday? What is all that? And like that sparked my interest, and also the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films were coming out like right. I was like the perfect age for those to take over my life. So it would probably be like Death of Superman and just the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies would be like the two things that really got me into superheroes and comics.
Rasco will always be perpetually 5 years old in my mind. When Rasco's like, when I was really little, I'm like, God, it feels like a couple of years ago, man. But yay for Death of Superman! I love it when you were like, man, what's Doomsday? I gotta know. He's a giant plot device with bones sticking out of him. That's what he is. I love him too. Somebody I saw an amusing exchange of comments. One person said, "Who's Hit Monkey?" and someone else said, "A monkey that kills people."
You probably didn't even have to know who that character was to say that.
Steve, how'd you get started?
So of my earliest memories, the two things I've never had a memory without is Dragon Ball Z and Batman. So those are immediately off the table because I can't think of a time
obvious
where I wasn't reading
crossover.
Batman. Huh?
Obvious crossover that's never happened.
Oh, I know. Goku would like demolish Batman, but
You want to see Batman take 6 issues to finish a kick. It's like a sweeping kick that just goes for panels and panels and panels before it finally connects with someone's face.
Oh, that'd be great. So I was always reading Batman comics, but never current. The thing that got me into superheroes, though, is I had a comic, and this has always been fun because Eric and I talk about this, but there was this 2-part Elseworld story called Super 7, and it was The Adventures of Superman Annual number 6 and Superboy Annual number 1. Now, those were 2 very arbitrary issues for a crossover that no one cares about or knows about. But Eric had the first part of it, the Superman issue, and always wanted to read the second one, and I've always had the second part and always wanted to read the first part. So when we met, the first thing that we realized that one of our earliest comics for both of us was a crossover that would connect with each other. So that was really cool. And through that crossover, I got into more like superheroes as a concept. But I didn't start reading current comic books until much later when Ed Brubaker started writing the Winter Soldier arc. And from there, I'm like comic books all the time, every single day.
And that's how you knew you were in love.
Yep. I saw the Winter Soldier's flowing hair, and it was over.
And now you're married, and you have 4 kids, and you have a cottage. And...
Wow, that's like his wife is like a lot to pack all at once whenever he moves. So I've given my he's writing a fan fiction. My answer I've talked about 100,000 times, so I'll keep this super brief. It was Death of Superman. It was Batman '89. It was Batman '89 first. Death of Superman was a big deal. I didn't like Superman when I was younger, and for a lot of reasons that people tend to not like him now, which is why it's really I hate to say this, but that's why I find it somewhat difficult to not see that as almost like a childish reason to not like Superman, where it's like you're just not looking into him enough, because like I was like, yeah, he's too powerful, when I was like 5, and then I learned things about Superman and what he was about, and how you can make conflicts about more than just hitting things in the face. But people that feel that way have probably not read good Superman stories, and there are not a lot of really good Superman stories, so I'm also sympathetic toward that. But then, Star Trek was always there from when I was really little with my dad, and then I got into science fiction, especially quirky science fiction, with things like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams stuff, and then my kind of humor trifecta became that, and They Might Be Giants, and The Tick, and you put those 3 things together with my humor sensibilities, and then you put you stick Batman on top of that, and then you put Star Trek at the helm, flying the ship, and you get pretty much my whole personality. Okay, so the next 3 questions are all really like heavy things that seem like they would take a long time. So we're going to skip those tonight, and we're already at about an hour. I think we'll go ahead and answer one more live question. At the risk of doing more live than we're doing of these, we'll do one more live question, and then we'll start with another trifecta next week of deep and more heavy and difficult things to deal with, somewhat more controversial things, some of them. Rasco, could you give us one more question to hold us hold us over, to play us out, as it were?
Yeah, this is from Masked Sci-Fi Fan. How do you guys feel about Joss Whedon doing a musical episode for Flash and Supergirl?
Is that a thing that's happening?
Okay, we know that Flash and Supergirl are getting a musical crossover. Joss Whedon at Comic-Con said that one of his favorite shows right now is Supergirl, and in response to that, Grant Gustin said that he would love Joss Whedon to do an episode of The Flash. Now, no one has said anything. Some unnamed source posted a rumor that Joss Whedon was doing the musical episode for Flash and Supergirl after that was confirmed. So I don't think this is true. If it is true, it's literally the greatest thing ever, and I'm going to die happy after I see it.
Yeah, and I don't care how contrived it is at that point.
It's Joss Whedon writing Supergirl and Flash singing songs. I don't care anymore. It's the greatest thing ever.
Okay, I have several immediate responses to this. One of them is, if a musical thing is happening between those shows, I would want either Joss Whedon to be the person involved, because I feel like he has kind of perfected this kind of thing now. Buffy, he was kind of getting the kinks out of his ability to write musicals and write stuff like that for TV or for film, and have a reason for people singing and stuff. And then, of course, he perfected it with Dr. Horrible, so we could accidentally get like the culmination of a lot of Joss Whedon's work if he got to do that. So that would be awesome. But I would want either him to write it or the guy who wrote the Music Meister episode for Brave and the Bold.
That's who I want to be the villain of. That's who I want to be the villain of this.
Yeah, and they should do that, because I mean they're going to the bottom of the barrel and picking all kinds of other really super random C and D list villains. Yeah, use Music Meister. Absolutely. I also feel like if Whedon is the person doing it, and I'm with Steve, I think this is unlikely, but if that ends up happening, then I would. Then I feel like Fillion has to be there for some reason, maybe even playing Music Meister. That'd be great. If you get Fillion as a Music Meister, that would be kind of, yeah, I'm with Steve. I die happy after that. After Nathan Fillion plays Music Meister, singing in a thing written by Joss. Yeah, I'm done.
Not doing much but writing scripts. Nathan Fillion's Castle just got canceled. Kind of the perfect time.
Yep, it's perfect. Finally, why can't this be a crossover for all 4 series? Why can't this be a kooky time travel adventure? Sarah Lance needs to have to be forced to sing things. I want that. I want Katie Lotz to be forced to sing. I want that so badly. The possibilities on this are absolutely endless.
I would love a contrived reason for James Marsters to be back.
Yes, of
Just to
course.
do something where he's basically Spike but not Spike.
No, he should be Brainiac, obviously.
Or, hear me out on this, live-action movie John Constantine. I think he'd be perfect.
But he's been Brainiac before. We had a male Brainiac yet.
Yeah, that's true, but he's also perfect John Constantine.
You know, it's going to be really weird looking back at those dark episodes of Arrow during season 1 and thinking this is where we're at now with this continuity.
Musicals. Who doesn't love musicals? Joss Whedon wants to do a ballet at some point. Maybe he'll turn it into a musical ballet.
Wilson Slade needs to come back for this musical.
Yeah, I'm telling you, good plot. At this point, this would not be the thing that jumps the shark for these shows, right? Like, bring it on at this point, you know.
When King Shark
Obviously,
didn't jump the shark, you know you've lost a step.
No, you jumped the shark way before King Shark. Even in that show, I think King Shark was like normal compared to other things that just don't make sense in that show. Especially with Arrow.
During the musical episode, have someone do a ballet leap over King Shark in the musical episode.
Epic.
I want to have Captain Cold have a Frozen-like ballad. Like that.
I want Joss Whedon to write ice puns now. Oh my
Ice
God.
puns in a song, yeah. It makes me wonder who in those casts is the best, are the best singers, because I don't know. I know John Barrowman sings, but beyond him, I don't know who else sings.
I think Grant Gustin and what is the?
Oh, the guy who plays. I'm sorry, what?
I think both Grant Gustin and is her name Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl.
Yeah.
Both of them sing, and I think.
Oh yeah,
They're both on Glee.
Yeah, both of them were on Glee. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, Grant Gustin sings. I've heard him sing. I saw that way
Yeah,
back.
that happened in an
Yeah.
episode of like season 1.
Yeah.
John Barrowman sings, and then the guy that plays Joe West sings, and we've heard him sing.
Oh yeah, we have heard him sing.
Yeah, I wonder if the guy who plays Wells sings.
There is a Bruno Mars song called Gorilla. So we need Gorilla Grodd to sing that song. Banging on your chest, bang, bang, Gorilla.
Oh,
This
according
would
to
be-
Ryan Thompson, Whedon directed an episode of Glee. So maybe this is not quite as far-fetched.
Yeah, that's enough to make me think this is likely to happen, especially because Whedon's going to want to do some more quick, kind of, fun, low-key things for a while, don't you think? Like, before he comes back to some other big, giant project. Obviously, it's not low-key in the sense that it won't get a lot of press, but there just won't be a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
It'll just be kind of a fun thing to do. Yeah, I hope that happens. Okay, well, I'm sorry, what?
I feel like it's too much of wishful thinking to see Neil Patrick Harris reprise his role as Music Meister. I think what's more realistic is that they'll just get one of the alumni from Glee to play Music Master, because of Supergirl and Flash being from Glee.
Well, that's a good point, but I still think it's possible to. I still think Fillion's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Maybe.
It would be weird for.
Joss Whedon is that everyone he's worked with is suddenly like his best friend. So if he wants someone that would traditionally be expensive, they probably do it for Whedon.
Yeah.
And we'll never see his eyes. We'll just have the musical symbols.
Could we get Clocking back for that episode and have a clock song? Could we have him sing "Clocks" by Coldplay? Could that be?
We might sing
be a
TikTok
thing.
by Kesha.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah. Oh my god.
I got old. That's what happened. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for us tonight. Thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it. Next week we'll try to get through a few more questions, but we had some kind of heavier things to tackle tonight, apparently. Sure appreciate you watching. See you again next Sunday, and tune in tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Central Time to watch New Comic Late Night with me and the Curious Low. We'll be talking about some new comics. I'm right in the middle of the Power Rangers annual right now. Talk about that and some other things tomorrow night, and lots of videos coming for you this week. I am hip deep in the middle of an episode of Counting Cricket Freaks, and I will have that done very soon, and then I'll be working on my super top secret superhero rewind. I will be out of town over next weekend, so you won't see a lot of stuff from me over the weekend. And actually, come to think of it, I don't know if I'll be back in town by next Sunday night, so we'll play that by ear. There may be a multi-topic without me, or I might have the guys do some topic until I get back for the rest of multi-topic. So we'll play it by ear. I'm not sure yet. But everybody, thanks always for watching. Sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan, and this was Jackson Rasco.
Goodbye.
Steve the Vaccinator Baxi.
Good night, everybody.
Mr. Goodplot.
Where can I find Cristo Pepsi?
I feel like I saw that the other day.
I can't find it.
I think maybe it was at a movie theater.
Oh.
Yeah, so go see movies. Maybe you'll find it there. Anyway, thanks again for watching, folks. I'm Captain Logan saying good night. Good night.